sat by the window, the salty breeze mingling with the scent of freshly brewed coffee. The question had been gnawing at me for months. Is my life just a series of set daily routines? It seemed simple enough, yet its answer eluded me. I had a decent job, a comfortable home, and a circle of friends, but something felt amiss. Was I truly content with what I had? Was I happy with who I had become? Did I want this for myself growing up? It was a chilly Sunday afternoon when the epiphany struck. I sat in my favorite armchair, the one by the window overlooking the ocean. The waves were relentless, their persistence as restless as my thoughts. In the quiet of my mind storm, I began to ponder my life more deeply. I had always been driven, constantly striving for the next achievement, the next goal. But now, as I sat there, I realized that in my pursuit of success, I had neglected the simple joys of being present. I had been so focused on the destination that I had forgotten to appreciate my journey. That evening, feeling cooped up, I decided to take a walk out along the beach. I needed to be in a different space, in mind and body. The cold, wet sand beneath my feet grounded me in a way I hadn't felt in years. I watched the waves crash and recede, their constant motion a reminder that life, too, has its ebbs and flows. As I walked, I encountered my elderly next-door neighbor, his face weathered by time, but his eyes sparkling with a youthful light. We struck up a conversation, and I found myself sharing my thoughts with him. He listened patiently, a soft smile playing on his lips. "You know, Catherine," he said after a while, "surpassing life's daily routines and flourishing isn't about what you have or what you achieve. It's about finding contentment in the present moment, embracing the life you have, and nurturing the relationships that truly matter to you and your happiness." His words resonated deeply with me. I realized that my discontent stemmed not from a lack of achievements or possessions, but from a lack of gratitude for the present. I had been so focused on what I didn't have that I had overlooked the abundance in my life. Returning home, I started a gratitude journal, noting down the small blessings of each day. I spent more time with my friends and family, truly listening and engaging with them. I took up hobbies that brought me joy, not because they added to my achievements, but because they enriched my soul. Slowly, I began to feel a shift within me. The emptiness was replaced by a sense of fulfillment. I learned to find joy in the mundane and to appreciate the beauty in the ordinary. My life hadn't changed in any dramatic way, but my heart had. I was flourishing, not because of what I had, but because of who I had become. The journey wasn't always easy. There were days when the old restlessness crept back in, days when I questioned if I was doing enough. But I reminded myself of my wise neighbor's words. Flourishing was a choice, a daily practice of gratitude and presence. As the months passed, I found a deeper sense of peace. I stopped comparing myself to others and stopped chasing after the next big thing. Instead, I focused on thankfulness for what I had, nurturing my relationships, pursuing my passions, and living in the moment. One night, as I sat by the window, I realized that I was content. I was happy with who I was and grateful for the life I had. The journey to flourishing led me to a place of inner peace, a place where I could truly say I was living my best life. I'm not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. Philippians 4:11. Philippians 4:11. The rain had a way of bringing Jasmine back to her roots, a gentle reminder of the times spent with her grandparents in the old family home. She could almost hear her grandmother's voice, warm and inviting, calling everyone to the dinner table for another grand family gathering. Those were the days when the house was alive with laughter, the air thick with the aroma of home-cooked meals, and the family was whole. But times had changed. Her grandparents had passed, and with them, the glue that held the family together seemed to dissolve. Holiday gatherings became smaller, birthdays quieter, and Mother's Day was now a solitary affair. What was once a vibrant tapestry of togetherness had unraveled into a collection of loose threads, scattered and disconnected. Jasmine felt the weight of these changes acutely. She missed the days when they would gather under one roof, sharing stories and creating memories. She missed the warmth of her grandmother's hugs and the strength of her grandfather's wisdom. Without them, the family had drifted apart, meeting now only at funerals or the occasional wedding, where the guest list was often limited by cost or convenience. She sat by her window, the steady rhythm of the rain a backdrop to her thoughts. It had been years since the family had been together in one place, and she wondered if it was even possible to recapture that sense of unity. Each family member had their own lives now, scattered across different cities, their connections to each other fraying with time. Jasmine's mind wandered back to a particular conversation with her grandfather. Family is like a garden, he had said. It needs tending, love, and patience. If you neglect it, the weeds will take over, and what was once beautiful will be lost. She realized now that the garden of their family had been neglected, overtaken by the weeds of life's demands and the passage of time. Determined to change this, Jasmine decided to reach out to her relatives. She sent messages, made phone calls, and even wrote letters, each one a small attempt to bridge the gaps that had formed. She proposed a family reunion, a chance to come together and remember what they had once shared. To her surprise, the response was overwhelmingly positive. Everyone seemed to miss the sense of togetherness that had been lost. The day of the reunion arrived, and the old family home, now hers, was once again filled with the sounds of laughter and the smell of delicious food. Children played in the yard, cousins caught up on lost time, and siblings reminisced about their shared past. Jasmine watched as her family, scattered by time and distance, came together, the gaps closing as they reconnected. As the evening drew to a close, Jasmine gathered everyone in the living room, just as her grandmother had done so many times before. She spoke of the importance of family, of the need to nurture their bonds and create new memories. She reminded them of their grandparents' legacy, the values of love and togetherness that they had instilled in all of them. Tears were shed, hugs were exchanged, and a sense of renewed connection filled the room. They made a promise to meet more often, to not let the busyness of life drive them apart again. It wouldn't be easy, but they were determined to keep their family garden blooming. That night, as Jasmine lay in bed, the sound of rain soothing her to sleep, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. She had taken the first step towards mending what had been broken. And in doing so, she had honored her grandparents' memory. The future was hopeful. Jasmine drifted off to sleep, her heart full and content. She knew that the journey ahead would be filled with challenges. But she also knew that as long as they held on to each other, they could weather any storm. Family, after all, was meant to be together, through thick and thin, carrying forward the love and values passed down through generations. Behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity. Psalm 133, verse 1. As he scrolled through his emails, Mr. Ross sat at his imposing mahogany desk, the screen's glow illuminating his stern features. The years had carved a path of success for him at the company, but along that path, he had become a man defined by his work, a leader known more for his cold efficiency than for any warmth or empathy. His employees were just cogs in the machine, tools to achieve the company's goals, and he treated them as such, expendable and replaceable. Mr. Ross wasn't inherently mean. He simply believed that the job came first. Sacrifices were necessary. And if he could make them, so could everyone else. This mindset earned him respect, mingled with resentment. He walked the halls with an air of arrogance, his sharp gaze intimidating those who dared to meet it. In the corporate world, Mr. Ross had climbed the ladder with unrelenting focus, leaving little room for personal connections or empathy. The atmosphere in the office was tense. Employees tiptoed around him. Conversations hushed as he passed by, yet his methods had undeniably brought the company success, and that was what mattered to him. One Friday afternoon, as Mr. Ross was preparing for a crucial board meeting, his assistant, Jane, knocked timidly on his door. "Mr. Ross, may I have a word?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Without looking up, he nodded. "Make it quick, Jane. I have a meeting in 10. Jane hesitated before speaking. "It's about Mark from the IT department. He's been absent for a week, and I've just learned that his daughter is very ill. He's been by her side in the hospital." Mr. Ross's brow furrowed. "And we all have responsibilities. Tell him he is also responsible for his work." Jane's eyes widened in shock, but she bit her tongue and nodded, retreating from the office. The incident barely registered with Mr. Ross as he immersed himself in the board meeting, where he delivered a stellar presentation, earning praise from the executives. The following week, the company received tragic news. Mark's daughter had passed away. A memo circulated the office, and a somber mood settled over the employees. Mr. Ross, however, viewed it as an unfortunate personal matter that should not interfere with staff duties. Later that day, Mr. Ross was in his office when a call came through from his wife. He answered brusquely, "I'm busy. Can this wait?" His wife's voice trembled. "It's about our son, David. He's been in an accident and is in the hospital. They don't know if he'll make it." For the first time, Mr. Ross felt the cold grip of fear. His son was his pride and joy, the one personal connection he had maintained through his years of corporate ambition. He left the office in a hurry, driving to the hospital with a pounding heart. As he rushed into the hospital to see see his son. He saw Mark and his wife just leaving the hospital, looking utterly broken and distraught. The sight struck him deeply. At the hospital, he found his wife in tears, doctors and nurses bustling around. David's condition was critical, and the next few hours were a blur of anxious waiting. As Mr. Ross sat by his son's bedside, the reality of his situation began to sink in. He had been so consumed with his work that he had neglected the most important people. In the quiet of the hospital room, Mr. Ross watched his son fight for his life. He saw the worried faces of other parents, and he thought of Mark. He thought of the callousness with which he had dismissed Mark's plight, not recognizing the shared personal struggles of his employees. David's condition gradually stabilized, and Mr. Ross was filled with a profound sense of relief and gratitude, but he also felt a deep shame for his previous indifference. He returned to the office with a newfound perspective. He called a meeting with his team, the first of its kind. As they gathered, he stood before them. His usual stern demeanor softened. "I owe you all an apology," he began. "I've been so focused on our success that I forgot about the people who make it possible. You all have families, lives, and challenges that deserve respect and empathy. I've learned that life is unpredictable, and we must cherish those around us." His words hung in the air, and the employees exchanged glances of shock, surprise, and relief. The atmosphere in the office began to shift from that day slowly. Mr. Ross started to take a genuine interest in his employees' well-being, creating a culture of support and understanding. Mr. Ross's journey was a humbling one, and it taught him the value of compassion and the importance of balancing professional ambition with personal connections. The once cold and distant leader became a figure of respect and admiration for his business acumen and his compassion. Life is unpredictable and fleeting. In the pursuit of success, do not forget that empathy and understanding can transform not only workplaces, but also lives. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Romans 12, verse 15. The Thomas family was a close-knit group of four. James, the thoughtful father; Maria, the compassionate mother; and their two daughters, Sophie and Emma, bright and curious. They spent many of their evenings in deep conversations, exploring various subjects, and often reflecting on the world around them. James scrolled through a popular social media platform as the family gathered in their cozy living room. He stumbled upon a video that caught his attention. It was an open forum where a Christian speaker, a man with a calm demeanor and respectful presence, was met with a barrage of hostile questions and angry outbursts from the audience. The debaters demanded proof of his beliefs, scoffing and shouting in an attempt to discredit him. James turned up the volume, and the family listened intently. The speaker, unfazed by the aggression, responded calmly. "I have no tangible proof, just as if I asked you to prove that this reality is all there is. It's hard to do so, but there is evidence of Jesus, evidence from history, from around 5,000 original and not transcribed accounts in text and manuscripts, and also from personal experiences that validate my beliefs. The man continued, "Consider other widely accepted theories like abiogenesis, which proposes that life originated from non-living matter through natural processes. While significant evidence supports this possibility, it has not been directly observed or conclusively proven. As for Jesus, historical accounts depict him as a figure of the 1st century CE, who preached love, forgiveness, and the kingdom of God, performed miracles, and was crucified and resurrected. Both biblical and extra-biblical sources provide documentation supporting his existence. While there is consensus among historians that Jesus was a real historical figure, the miraculous aspects of his life remain matters of personal faith. However, his teachings of love, forgiveness, peace, and compassion remain universally relevant, serving as timeless principles for personal growth and societal harmony. Maria, always the voice of empathy, commented, "It's interesting how people put so much effort into discrediting Christianity specifically. Why isn't this the case for the thousands of other religions or scientific theories? Why is Christianity such a focus point for so many?" Sophie, the elder daughter, chimed in with a thoughtful observation. "You know, it's fascinating how some theories gain widespread acceptance despite lacking evidence, while others face skepticism, even with compelling evidence. Take the theory of panspermia, for example. It suggests that life on Earth originated from microorganisms or biochemical compounds brought from outer space by meteorites or comets. Despite the lack of direct proof, many scientists strongly believe this. In contrast, the historical accounts of Jesus and his miracles, while supported by numerous texts and testimonies, are often met with skepticism or disbelief. Even among those who readily accept speculative scientific theories, it's intriguing how differing standards of evidence and personal beliefs shape our acceptance of ideas, whether they're rooted in religion or science. Emma, the younger daughter, asked, "Why do people feel the need to disprove someone else's belief? Wouldn't it be easier to say, 'I don't agree, but you can believe what you want and move on?'" James nodded thoughtfully, his gaze drifting into the distance. "You know," he began softly, "it seems that for some, the discomfort arises from a reluctance to accept beliefs or ideologies that challenge their own. Perhaps, in resisting such ideas, they find a sense of reassurance and a validation of their choices." As they delved deeper into the discussion, they talked about various phenomena, aliens, conspiracy theories, and supernatural occurrences that people often dismiss without the aggressive need to disprove them. Yet, when it came to Christianity, the antagonism was palpable. James reflected, maybe it's because Christianity asks something of us. It challenges us to look inward and question our actions and morals. It asks for accountability and change, which can be uncomfortable. As the conversation drew to a close, they knew that the journey to understanding was ongoing, and that respect and empathy were crucial. The evening ended with a sense of unity. In life, everybody's journey is not the same, and what may be good for me may not necessarily be for you. However, respect and empathy for everyone's beliefs are crucial. Like a majestic tree with its diverse branches, some fruitful, some flowering, some lush with leaves, while others withering, or bare, all are rooted in unity, forever intertwined in the same tree of life's enduring embrace. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Colossians 3, verse 12. Have you ever experienced rain on a sunny day? It's a curious phenomenon where the sky remains bright and blue, yet droplets of water descend gently from the heavens. Haley often found herself reflecting on this paradox, feeling that it mirrored her own life. Despite the brightness that surrounded her, a cloud of worry and doubt seemed to follow her every step, casting shadows over her moments of joy and filling her heart with unease. Today, as she sat by her favorite window, the sun was shining brightly, and the world outside was bathed in golden light. But Haley felt a familiar weight pressing down on her. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, that her blessings were being overshadowed by an invisible gloom. She had always been told to count her blessings, to focus on the good, but the persistent worry and fear in her mind made it difficult to see the light. Haley watched as the first raindrop splashed against the glass, followed by another, and then another, until a gentle shower began to fall, despite the sun's unwavering presence. The sight of rain on a sunny day had always fascinated her, and today it felt particularly poignant. She began to ponder how worry and doubt in her life were like carrying an invisible umbrella, shielding her from the blessings that were trying to pour into her life and blocking the light of hope that surrounded her, casting a shadow of darkness and fear that seemed to follow her everywhere. Her thoughts wandered to the many instances when she had allowed her worries to cloud her judgment, to obscure the joy that life had to offer. The job promotion she doubted she deserved or could live up to, the relationship she feared wouldn't last, the new opportunities she was hesitant to embrace. All these were moments where her own mind had cast shadows over her sunny days. Haley closed her eyes, trying to find a way to stay positive, to break free from the self-imposed shadows. She remembered a conversation she had with her grandmother, a woman who had faced many storms in her life with unwavering faith and resilience. Sometimes, Haley, her grandmother had said, we need to put down our umbrellas and dance in the rain. Only then can we truly feel the blessings that are showered upon us. These words resonated deeply with Haley now. She realized that her worries and doubts were like that umbrella, keeping her from experiencing the full beauty of the blessings in her life. The rain outside continued to fall, each drop a reminder of the countless blessings that she had failed to fully embrace. She decided at that moment to make a change. She opened her eyes and stood up, moving to the door and stepping outside. The cool rain mixed with the warmth of the sun on her skin felt invigorating. Haley let herself be fully present in the moment, feeling the rain wash away her worries and the sunlight warm her heart. She understood now that staying positive wasn't about denying the existence of the shadows, but about choosing to focus on the light and the blessings, even when the clouds of worry loomed overhead. As Haley stood in the rain, she felt a sense of renewal. She realized that the shadows of doubt and fear would always be a part of life, but they didn't have to define her experience. She could choose to dance in the rain, embrace the blessings, and let the light of hope guide her through the darkest times. It wasn't about having all the answers or knowing exactly how things would turn out. It was about trusting that, even in the rain, the sun could still shine. With this newfound view on life, Haley felt a surge of confidence. She knew there would be challenges ahead, but she was ready to face them with an open heart and a positive outlook. She had learned that blessings often come in unexpected forms, and sometimes it takes a bit of rain to truly appreciate the sunshine. As she walked back inside, dripping wet, but filled with a sense of peace, Haley felt grateful for the rain on this sunny day. It reminded her of the importance of staying positive, of focusing on the blessings rather than the shadows. She took a deep breath, feeling a change in her outlook, and smiled. She was ready to embrace whatever came her way, with faith and resilience. The Lord will open the heavens, the storehouse of his bounty, to send rain on your land in season, and to bless all the work of your hands. Deuteronomy 28, verse 12. Growing up in a loving home, life was good. My family enjoyed a comfortable life, a status brought about by the relentless hard work and dedication of my parents. They sacrificed so much, and their efforts were etched in every comfort we enjoyed. I was always aware of how blessed I was, and the weight of maintaining the trust and approval that my parents had in me. Every choice I made was carefully thought out, not out of fear, but out of a deep sense of gratitude and respect for the life they had built. Despite our strong family values, I was never deeply spiritual in the traditional sense. Praying on my knees, reading the Bible regularly, or even fasting were not part of my routine. Sundays were reserved for attending morning church services, and occasionally I joined youth meetings on Fridays, which were more of a social gathering with friends than a spiritual encounter. In those church services, I was shy and reserved, rarely singing or clapping along with the hymns. Instead, I used that time to chat with God in my mind. In those quiet, reflective moments, I felt an indescribable connection. There were no distractions, just me and my thoughts. Drifting into conversations with God, I would reflect on my actions, seek forgiveness for my wrongs, and simply bask in the sense of love that enveloped me. It wasn't me and my conscience. It felt different, something more. It wasn't a voice I heard, but a feeling I understood, a gentle nudge guiding me. I felt God's presence in my life whenever I faced the consequences of my actions, like poor grades due to playing rather than studying. I would really have some long conversations with him, sharing everything and anything. It felt like I had a personal best friend, always there to guide me. As time passed and I grew older, life became busier. I met someone special, started working, and a new chapter of my life began. My conversations with God became fewer and further apart. Things around me were great, but it all felt hollow. I realized I lost that sense of calm and happiness that had once filled my heart. I realized that I only reached out to God when problems arose, seeking help in times of need, only to revert to my old busy ways once the storm had passed. No matter how good things were, I never felt that same happiness again. There was a divide, a barrier created by my own guilt and neglect. Years went by, and I found myself longing for what I had so foolishly set aside. The regret weighed heavily on me, a constant reminder of the connection I had taken for granted. One rainy evening, much like tonight, I found myself lost in deep thought. The rain, a constant companion, brought a sense of introspection. I realized that the distance I felt was not because God had moved away, but because I had built walls around my heart. I had let the busyness of life, the distractions, and my own guilt create a barrier. But in that moment of reflection, I felt a glimmer of hope. I understood that God was always there, patiently waiting for me to return. It was I who had created the problems, the distance, and just like the rain washes away the dirt and brings new life to the earth, I felt a sense of renewal, a chance to rebuild that connection. Life will always have its challenges and distractions, but your bond with God is unbreakable. It's not about the rituals or the routine, but about the quiet, personal conversations that happen in the depths of our minds and hearts. And in those moments, I find peace, knowing that God is always there, waiting with open arms. The path ahead is unknown, but with faith, I know I can navigate through it. The journey is long, but the love and guidance of God are always within reach. The Lord is near to all who call on Him, to all who call on Him in truth. Psalm 145, verse 18. In the bustling corridors of Middleton College, amidst the laughter and chatter of students rushing to classes, there was a young girl named Mia with her backpack slung over her shoulder and a hopeful gleam in her eyes. Mia navigated through the crowds, her heart heavy with the weight of expectations. She was the first in her family to attend college, a dream made possible through a hard-earned scholarship that she had fought tirelessly to secure. College life was supposed to be a time of excitement and exploration, but for Mia, it had become a battleground. Peer pressure whispered in her ear, urging her to join in the late-night parties and reckless escapades that seemed to define the college experience. And though she longed to fit in and be accepted, there was a voice deep within her that whispered of another path, one of diligence, perseverance, and unwavering focus. As the semester progressed, Mia found herself torn between two worlds. On the one hand, there were the temptations of instant gratification, the allure of skipping classes, staying out late, and living for the moment, making real bonds with much-needed friends. On the other hand, there were the demands of academic excellence following the endless hours spent studying, the sleepless nights fueled by raw determination, and the relentless pressure to succeed. She knew this opportunity was her chance to give back to her family, who had always taken care of her and supported her dreams. Their unwavering support and sacrifices had brought her to this point, and she was determined to make them proud. Earning the scholarship was not just a personal achievement. It was a testament to their collective effort and love. She also remembered the disappointed faces of those who had come so close to achieving it. But amidst the chaos of college life, Mia found solace in the quiet moments of reflection. Alone in her dorm room, surrounded by textbooks and notes, she would close her eyes and breathe deeply, drawing drawing strength from a source beyond herself. In those moments of stillness, she felt a sense of peace wash over her, a reminder that she was not alone in her struggles. As the end of the semester drew near, Mia faced her greatest challenge yet, the dreaded final exams. Despite her best efforts, the weight of expectations seemed to bear down on her like a heavy burden, threatening to crush her spirits and extinguish her hopes for the future. Doubt gnawed at her resolve, and fear whispered lies of failure and defeat. But in the midst of the storm, Mia refused to surrender to despair. With grit and determination, she poured herself into her studies, fueled by a flicker of hope for a better life that burned bright within her. As she sat down to take her exams, she carried with her not only the knowledge she had acquired, but also the unwavering belief that she was capable of overcoming any obstacle that stood in her way. When the final grades were posted, there was a moment of breathless pause as Mia scanned the list, searching for her name, and then, there it was a testament to her hard work, her perseverance, and her unyielding faith. With tears of joy streaming down her face, Mia realized that she had not only passed her exams, but had surpassed all expectations, emerging stronger and more resilient than ever before. As she walked across the stage to receive her diploma, Mia felt a sense of gratitude wash over her, recognition of the journey she had undertaken and the challenges she had overcome. And as Mia looked out at the sea of faces before her, friends, family, and fellow graduates, she felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Unlike some of her peers, who had chosen nights of fun and partying, she had kept her head down and worked hard. Her dedication had paid off. Whilst others had not made it to this moment, she stood there with the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Life's challenges often seem overwhelming. It often presents two paths: the temptation of quick rewards at a high cost, or the challenge of hard work for lasting benefits. The choice isn't always easy, and we might miss out on what we want at the moment. However, by enduring the struggle, we ultimately gain what we truly need. This is always more valuable than any fleeting pleasure. Every challenge we face and overcome strengthens our character and brings us closer to our dreams. This growth process transforms obstacles into stepping stones, paving the way for a brighter future. Moreover, unwavering discipline towards our needs rather than our wants can create a ripple effect, positively influencing those we come in contact with. In leading by example, when it is not the popular choice, we demonstrate courage and tenacity, encouraging others to find their strength. This fosters a supportive environment where everyone is encouraged to reach their full potential. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Galatians 6, verse 9. Ariana stood at the crossroads of her life, both literally and figuratively, as she gazed at the skyline of the city from the small park bench, where she often found herself deep in thought. Today, the question that had been weighing heavily on her mind resurfaced with renewed intensity. Should she pursue a career she loved, despite its uncertainty and modest pay? Or should she choose a path that promised financial security, but left her heart uninspired? Ariana had always been passionate about art, Ever since she was a child, colors and shapes spoke to her in a language only she could understand. Her room had been her canvas, her sanctuary, where she poured her dreams and emotions into every stroke of her brush. But the world beyond her room was different. It demanded practicality, security, and assurance, things that an artist's life rarely provided. On the other hand, there was a lucrative offer waiting for her in the corporate world. It was a job that promised stability, a good salary, and the respect that came with a prestigious title. Yet, whenever Ariana imagined herself in that role, she felt a dull ache in her chest, as if a piece of her soul was being slowly chipped away. She pondered these choices, her mind a whirlwind of possibilities and fears. The rain began to fall again, softly at first, then with a steadier rhythm, mirroring her turbulent thoughts. The sound of the raindrops was like a gentle reminder of the constant flow of time. A ticking clock urging her to make a decision. Ariana closed her eyes, listening to the rain, and let her mind wander. She envisioned herself years down the line. In one scenario, she was in a spacious office, her nameplate gleaming on a mahogany desk, her bank account healthy, and her future secure. But her eyes in this vision were tired, her spirit dulled by the monotony of a life lived for others' expectations. In another vision, she saw herself in a modest studio, surrounded by canvases and paints. Her clothes were speckled with color, her hands rough from work, but her eyes were alive with a spark that came from doing what she loved. She could see the struggle and the uncertainty, but also the fulfillment and joy that came from living her truth. Ariana opened her eyes, the rain now a steady downpour. She felt a mix of emotions: fear of the unknown, the pressure of societal expectations, and a deep yearning to follow her heart. It was a battle between the mind and the soul, between security and passion. She thought of her parents, who had always emphasized the importance of a stable career. Their words echoed in her mind, filling her with doubt. But then she remembered her grandfather, an old musician who had lived a simple yet deeply content life. He used to tell her stories of his adventures, of how he never regretted a single moment spent pursuing his passion, despite the hardships. As the rain fell, Ariana felt a sense of clarity washing over her. She realized that no path was without its struggles, and no decision came with a guarantee of happiness. The choice she faced was not just about a job. It was about how she wanted to live her life. She knew that either path would require sacrifice, but the question was which sacrifices she was willing to make. She stood up from the bench, feeling a strange clarity amidst the storm. She didn't have all the answers, but she understood that the most important thing was to stay true to herself. She decided to take a leap of faith, to trust that following her passion would lead her to where she needed to be. Even if the road was rough and uncertain, Ariana walked away from the park, the rain now a gentle drizzle. She felt lighter, as if a great burden had been lifted from her shoulders. She didn't know what the future held, but she was ready to embrace it with open arms, with all its challenges and rewards. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans. Proverbs 16, verse 3. He felt truly broken, as if he had forgotten how to breathe. Greg sat alone in his living room. The echoes of laughter and joy that once filled the space, now replaced with a hollow silence. The world moved on outside his window, but he remained stuck in a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity. It had been 6 months since Emily passed away. 6 months of numbness, confusion, and an ache that refused to subside. Friends and family offered their condolences and advice, each well-meaning attempt to help only adding to the weight on his heart. Just take it one day at a time, they said. Focus on the good memories. Stay busy, it'll get better. But nothing seemed to fill the void. He drifted through his days like a ghost, unable to find joy in the things that once brought him happiness. Nights were the hardest, the quiet darkness amplifying his sense of loss. Greg often found himself staring at old photographs, each image a reminder of a life that felt both painfully close and impossibly distant. Emily's smile, her laughter, the way she lit up a room, it all felt like it belonged to another world. One evening, as the city lights flickered outside, Greg found himself drawn to a box of Emily's belongings. It had been untouched since her passing. A silent sentinel of memories. He opened it slowly, his hands trembling. Inside, he found her favorite book, a collection of letters, and a small, intricately carved music box. He turned the crank of the music box, and a familiar tune filled the room. It was a song they had danced to on their wedding night. Tears welled up in his eyes, and for the first time in months, he let them fall freely. As the music played, Greg allowed himself to remember. He remembered their first date, the way they laughed until they cried. He remembered their adventures, the quiet moments, the dreams they had shared, and he remembered the love that had bound them together. A love that death could not erase. In those moments of reflection, something shifted within Greg. He realized that in trying to move forward, he had been denying himself the chance to truly grieve. He had been so focused on surviving that he had forgotten to live, to feel, to remember. The following days were not easier, but they were different. Greg began to embrace his grief, allowing himself to feel the pain, the sadness, and also the joy of the memories he cherished. He visited places they had loved, listened to their favorite songs, and talked about Emily with those who knew her best. One afternoon, while sitting in the park where they had spent so many happy days, Greg felt a sense of peace. He understood that grief was not something to overcome, but something to live with. It was a testament to the love he had for Emily, a love that would always be a part of him. As he watched the sunset, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Greg felt Emily's presence, not in a mystical sense, but in the way her memory had shaped him, in the love that continued to guide him. He realized that he was not alone. He carried her with him in every step he took. Greg stood up, a newfound strength in his heart. He knew the road ahead would still be painful, but he also knew he had the courage to face it. He had learned to find joy in the memories, to honor the past while embracing the future. Grief is not a path to be conquered, but a journey to be embraced. It is a reflection of the love we hold, a testament to the bonds that death cannot sever. In remembering, we find strength, and in living, we honor honor those we have lost. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Matthew 5, verse 4. The sun hung low, casting a golden hue across my backyard as I gathered the last bit of dirt and stones into a bag. It had been a long, arduous day of cleaning up, but seeing the yard neat and tidy filled me with a sense of accomplishment. A slight snap echoed through the still evening air as I hoisted the bag over my shoulder. I winced, feeling a sharp pain in my upper thigh. Shrugging it off as a muscle strain, I continued, eager to finish before darkness settled. After a hot shower, the discomfort persisted. A dull ache in my hip that I couldn't quite pinpoint. A week of enduring the pain led me to reluctantly visit my family doctor, only to find he was at an international convention. His replacement, a thorough and kind doctor, suggested anti-inflammatory meds and rest. If the pain persisted, he advised, we could explore further options. 2 weeks brought no relief. The replacement doctor, now familiar with my situation, recommended an X-ray. The results came back, leading to a more concerned look on his face. Something was amiss, he said, and he referred me to an orthopedic surgeon. Shocked and worried, I went through a series of painful tests, including an MRI with dye and a CT scan. The surgeon's call confirmed my fears. A fractured hip joint in an area with low blood circulation. He advised keeping weight off the leg and using crutches for 6 months to see if there is any signs of healing. 6 months passed with no change. My regular doctor, now back, reviewed the case and suggested I might need a hip replacement. I thought it was a joke at first and smiled, but soon that faded and the thought terrified me. I wouldn't say I liked needles and surgeries. I decided to endure the pain, learning to avoid certain activities and positions to manage it. I also fasted and prayed in the hope of a divine healing. For 3 years, the pain was a constant companion, sometimes unbearable, especially in the cold. A few months passed, and I began attending a new church on Sundays. This church was warm and welcoming with a refreshing come-as-you-are dress code. The pastors, introducing themselves by their first names without titles, delivered messages that resonated deeply with me. The atmosphere was friendly and inviting, and the people made me feel genuinely welcome. Unlike some other churches I had visited, they didn't even collect an offering. Give if your heart is compelled to give. You can do so privately in boxes or by fasting and praying in togetherness with the church once a month. This approach felt different from the common trend. They were focusing on giving rather than receiving. It felt genuine, a place of true faith. One Sunday at church, deep in thought and pain, during the praise and worship, I considered the surgery again in hopes of facing my fears to end the pain. As the song ended, the pastor, feeling an urge, spoke about the importance of doctors, the role they serve, and how they help in our lives. Sensing that some among us had sought medical help to no avail, he invited those in need of a special prayer for healing from God to come forward. Despite my usual reluctance and stage fear, I felt compelled to go. It didn't matter who saw me. I needed this. At the front, surrounded by a few others, I received a personal prayer for healing with an open heart. I thanked God for his blessing. Returning to my seat, I felt a slight, unexplainable difference. A sense of awakening that washed over my entire body. If I had to describe it, it was like closing your eyes really tightly for a while, and then opening them to a flood of warm light, bringing color to the darkness that once was. From that very day until now, the pain that was constant subsided from a daily 9 out of 10 to nearly none at all. That day, I felt the presence and warmth of God's power flowing through them into me, healing in me what once was broken. I don't know if anyone else received a blessing like this that day. I haven't shared my experience with anyone, finding it almost too good to be true. I feel as though people wouldn't fully grasp the magnitude of it. But my walk no longer has a limp. I can carry heavy loads more without issue, navigate stairs multiple times a day with ease, and the cold no longer bothers me. Reflecting on my journey, I realized that for 3 years, I had prayed, fasted, and asked for a miracle of healing, not understanding that the gift had always been there the very first time I asked. It was I who had waited 3 long years to step forward and receive it. Life often presents us with challenges that seem insurmountable. We seek answers, looking for signs, not realizing that sometimes the solution is within our reach. It takes a leap of faith, pure childlike belief, and a moment of surrender to truly find the healing we need. My journey taught me that enduring pain doesn't make us stronger. Seeking help and embracing faith does. But I will restore you to health and heal your wounds, declares the Lord. Jeremiah 30, verse 17. It had been 2 years since the entire family was reunited. The Johnsons were known for their vibrant, bustling gatherings where laughter flowed as freely as the wine. This year, the setting was a quaint country house with a garden blooming in vibrant hues. The scent of delicious food filled the air, mingling with the soft, rhythmic patter of summer rain. Children played hide and seek, their giggles echoing through the damp air, while adults reminisced under the protection of a large white tent. Amber, the heart and soul of the event, moved through the crowd with a practiced ease, her smile masking the turmoil within. She had meticulously planned every detail of this gathering, hoping the joy and togetherness would mend the invisible cracks in her life. Her husband, Mark, was charming as ever, engaging with everyone effortlessly. Yet, Amber couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. It was during a casual conversation with her cousin Emma that the first ripple disturbed the calm surface of her carefully maintained composure. Emma mentioned seeing Mark at a cafe in town the previous weekend, around the same time he was supposed to be on a business trip. He looked so happy. It was nice to see him relax for once, she said innocently. Amber's smile faltered. She had been convinced that Mark was in another city for work, as he had claimed. A cold knot formed in her stomach, but she dismissed it with a forced laugh, not wanting to cause a scene. The rest of the evening passed in a blur, her mind swirling with doubt and suspicion. Later that night, as the rain picked up its pace, Amber confronted Mark. "Emma saw you last weekend. She said you were at a cafe in town. You told me you were on a business trip." Her voice was calm but carried an edge of steel. Mark's expression shifted from surprise to defensive. "Amber, you're overthinking." Emma must have been mistaken. I was out of town, you know that. But the seed of doubt had already been planted. Over the next few days, Amber's unease grew. She found herself scrutinizing Mark's every move, questioning every explanation. The tension in their home became palpable, each day more strained than the last. Amber had always believed in facing challenges head-on, but this felt different. It was as if a shadow had fallen over their marriage, one she couldn't dispel. One evening, alone with her thoughts and the steady drumming of rain against the window, Amber decided to confront the truth. She quietly started to investigate, seeking clarity. Her suspicions were confirmed when she discovered messages on Mark's phone. There was no mistaking the intimacy shared in those conversations. The betrayal cut deep, but with it came a grim clarity. The rain fell relentlessly against the window panes as Amber confronted Mark in their dimly lit living room. The air between them crackled with tension as she laid out the evidence before him, her hands steady despite the storm raging within her. Mark's initial shock gave way to defensiveness again. "How could you invade my privacy like this, Amber? This is not trust. This is betrayal," he accused, his words cutting through the heavy silence. Amber stood firm, her eyes unwavering as she absorbed his blame. "You gave me no choice, Mark. Trust is a two-way street, and you chose to break it," she replied calmly, her voice tinged with a mix of hurt and determination. His attempt to deflect blame only fueled her resolve to seek the truth and reclaim her self-respect, despite the painful path ahead. In the stillness of that rainy night, she made a decision. The fear of the unknown paled in comparison to the pain of staying in a broken marriage. At the next family gathering, Amber was a picture of poise and grace. The decision to move on had given her a sense of resolve. Gathering her courage, she addressed her family, her voice unwavering. "I have something to share with you all. Mark and I have decided to part ways. It's a difficult decision, but it's the right one for me." The family, initially stunned, rallied around her with support and love. The atmosphere, once tense, became a comforting blanket of solidarity. Amber's decision to prioritize her self-respect over the familiarity of her past gave her newfound strength. In the months that followed, Amber embraced the uncertainty of her new life. She discovered passions long forgotten and built a support system of friends and family. Her journey wasn't easy, but with each step, she grew stronger. Amber learned that sometimes the most painful decisions lead to the most profound growth. As she stood by her window, watching the raindrops dance, she realized that she had found a new kind of happiness, one rooted in self-respect and the courage to embrace the unknown. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Isaiah 40, verse 31. The mid-80s to early 90s were a golden era, an age before the digital dawn where imagination ran free and friendships were tempered by shared adventures. In the small town of Everwood, set between rolling hills and ancient oak trees, 4 children grew up together. their bond as unbreakable as the roots of the old tree in the town square. Jake, Sam, Ben, and Lily were inseparable. Jake, the ringleader with an infectious grin. Sam, the thoughtful dreamer with a heart of gold. Ben, the mischievous prankster always up for a laugh. And Lily, the spirited girl with an adventurous streak that matched the boys step for step. They spent endless summers exploring the woods, building forts, and riding their bikes down the dusty paths. Every moment was an adventure. Every day, a new chapter in their story. One summer, they discovered a hidden cave deep in the forest. It became their secret haven, a place where they carved their initials into the stone walls and made solemn promises to stay friends forever. They called it Twilight's End and vowed to return every year, no matter what. As the years passed, life moved them in different directions. High school came and went, and the friends slowly drifted apart. Jake joined the army. Sam went off to college. Ben started working in his father's garage. And Lily pursued her dream of becoming a photographer. They promised to keep in touch, but the busyness of adulthood soon took over. The cave, their secret haven, became a distant memory. Years turned into decades, and the world changed. The advent of technology brought convenience, but also a certain disconnection. Text messages replaced handwritten letters, and social media updates substituted for heartfelt conversations. The simplicity of their childhood seemed like a relic of a bygone era. Then, one day, a letter arrived. It was from Ben's sister, Sarah. Ben had passed away unexpectedly, and she was organizing a small funeral back in Everwood. She thought his old friends should know. The news hit Jake, Sam, and Lily hard. They hadn't seen or spoken to each other in years, but the bond they shared was still there, buried under layers of time and distance. They decided to return to Everwood for the funeral, each carrying a mix of sadness and nostalgia. The town had changed, but felt the same. The streets were quieter, and the old tree in the square looked more weathered, but the memories came flooding back. The funeral was held in a small church filled with the scent of flowers and the soft murmur of shared sorrow. After the service, the three friends stood by Ben's grave, lost in their thoughts. Then, almost as if drawn by an invisible force, they started walking towards the woods. Their feet found the familiar paths, and soon they were standing in the cave, their Twilight's End. The initials carved into the stone were faded, but still visible, a testament to their enduring friendship. They sat inside the cave and talked for hours, sharing stories of their childhood and catching up on the years they had missed. They laughed and cried, and for a moment, it was as if they were children again, with all the time in the world. As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink, they made a new promise. They would honor Ben's memory by staying in touch, by not letting the busyness of life get in the way of what truly mattered. Their story urges us to slow down and take time to rekindle the neglected bonds with long-forgotten dear friends. It reminds us that regretting missed connections is futile when it's too late. Life is fleeting, and time slips away faster than we realize. In our rush to keep up with the demands of the modern world, we often forget to cherish the simple joys and the people who matter most. In the warmth of Twilight's End, Jake, Sam, and Lily rediscovered not only their friendship, but also a piece of themselves they had lost along the way. They realized that the real treasure in life was not in grand achievements or material possessions, but in the enduring bonds they shared and the memories they created together. As they left the cave, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. They knew that life would continue to pull them in different directions, but they were determined to hold on to what truly mattered. They vowed to be there for each other through the highs and the lows, and to never let the pressures of life overshadow their friendship again. Cherish the friendships that bring joy to your life. Amid the rush of adulthood, never lose sight of what truly matters, the people who have shared your journey and the memories you've created together. Today is the tomorrow we dreamed of yesterday. Knowing this, we can shape our future's past in the present moment. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity. Proverbs 17:17.